Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about solving quadratic equations with the quadratic formula. Here are the two problems that we'll do, and to make sure that we don't take ourselves too seriously, let's think about the fun question. If you had to listen to one song on repeat forever, which would you want it to be? So quadratics typically show up on the math section under Algebra I, this would be classified. Quadratics are also reinforced in Algebra II, but something related to solving or graphing or factoring, I would say. Those are the three main buckets of skills that you'd have to know would show up. So the thing that's nice about the quadratic formula is if you did have to solve, this method would work with every problem that is a quadratic. So first, before we do these, I want to talk about when to use each method. So I do have a video on the other three methods, but this flow chart helps you understand when to use which method. So the first question is there a GCF? Like, could you take a 3 out of all of the terms, the A, the B, and the C? And then you would ask, can you factor the quadratic in general? So like not factor out a GCF, but can you actually factor it into two binomials, or, if it's a special case, something else? If so, factoring is the way to go. If not, then I like to use completing the square if the A term is 1 and the B term is even. So like a 1 here and an even number here. And then quadratic formula would work nicely if the answer would be no to both of those questions. Can't be factored, and there's no special pattern about it. If the whole thing is a single perfect square, then you could square root to solve for x. So that kind of helps you organize your thoughts. But the quadratic formula, if you have it memorized, you really can use it in any situation if you're asked to solve. So what is the quadratic formula? Well, there are plenty of songs that will help you memorize this, but it's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it may seem babyish, but I would write out a equals b equals c equals. So a is 4, b is 2, c is negative 56. And we'll just start plugging those numbers into the formula. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus square root. And then we have 2 squared minus 4, and then 4, and then negative 56. Missing a negative is hard here because the whole thing is wrong, sadly. So I have to be very careful. Okay, negative 2 plus or minus square root of 4. And then I'm getting minus and then a negative. So I know that's going to end up being positive. So I'm doing 4 times 56. And I am going to get a negative 896 all over, and then this would be 8. So that's negative 2 plus or minus square root, and then 896 then plus 4 is 900. I gave you this example because that 900 is a perfect square, and I wanted to show you what it looks like when it's simplified. That 900 square rooted is 30. So this situation is basically, you could simplify this down to being the 2 over 8 is 1 over 4, and then I guess, 15 over 4. But since those numbers are small enough, let's just call this two different cases. We'd have negative 2 plus 30 over 8 and negative 2 minus 30 over 8. So that would give us, this would be 28 over 8, and this would give us negative 32 over 8. So we get negative 4. here. And then both of those numbers are divisible by 4, so that would be 7 over 2. So I have two real answers here. And it really was nice at the end when that 900 square roots. The second problem here is a little more complicated because not only see this equals 0, that set me up for success because, my A, B, and C were all lined up. But in this case, we need to move some things around to get it into that standard form. So minus 4r, plus 7, everything goes on one side. 12r squared, and then this would be minus 12r plus 7 equals 0. Okay, so I'm kind of double checking myself, making sure I'm not missing negatives. Because like I said, the whole thing would be wrong if I was. So it looks like my A here is 12, B is negative 12, C is 7. And I'm just going to plug it into the formula. X equals negative B, so that's a positive 12 this time, equals square root. Now here's where I have to be really careful. I have to throw that B into parentheses. Typically, whenever you're evaluating, like throwing a number into a variable, you want to make sure it's in parentheses just so that you get the right answer. So negative 12 is B squared and then minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay, 12 plus or minus square root. Now, negative 12 squared, you might think is negative 144, but because it's in parentheses, that would be a positive 144. And then it's going to be minus a positive number. 4 times 12 times 7 is 336. And of course, you have a calculator for the ACT here. And this would be all over 24 equals 12 plus or minus square root. And oh boy, it's going to be negative. So I'm getting negative 192 right there, and then all over 24. Okay, so not as happy at the end. This was lovely. This one is going to be messy. So once you're past Algebra 2, you could have I involved in your answer. That is an imaginary number. So here we have it with this negative 192. I'm going to do that simplification off to the side. So first thing I want to do is always pull out that negative 1 and then see what's left, 192. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing is trying perfect squares to see what I end up getting here. So I know that this would be I. And then 192, I just tried 64. So, if you pull out the biggest perfect square, 64 actually goes in 3 times to 192. So this would then simplify to 8I root 3. And that is what needs to go into the negative 192. So it would be 12 plus or minus 8I root 3 all over 24. And then I have a few options for simplifying here. What I like to do is put this 24 under each piece. And that's pretty consistent with the way that the ACT would simplify things. I could also, though, simplify a 12 24ths and an 18 24ths and kind of still write it all as one big fraction. So a few different options. Okay, this is 1/2 plus or minus, and then I root 3 over 3 because the 8 over 24 simplifies down to being 1 over 3. So, if this is 2 if we have 2 as a denominator here and a 3 as a denominator there, I could just keep all of this out of 6. So just keep in mind that there are a few different ways to simplify. Let's try some practice that is very similar to those two. I gave you almost identical problems. You might have a nice happy answer at the end. You might have something that relates to the imaginary numbers. So why don't you pause the video and I will reveal the answer in just a second. Okay, so once again, the first problem was easier, get real numbers. Second one is kind of a mess, but the root 107 thankfully doesn't simplify. So that was actually a little easier than the ones in the examples. All right, so as far as a quote, this is a good one. Curiosity about life in all of its aspects, I think, is still the secret of great creative people. Leo Burnett. So I hope this video helped you in some way, and feel free to answer the fun question in the comments, and subscribe if you'd like to keep up with new videos. Thank you.